Hello and welcome back to Talk of the Townsends, the show about finding incredible wealth, discovering enlightenment, and perhaps something else. I'm Benedict Townsend.
And I am Hannah Townsend.
Great to be back once again, just weighed down by that bizarre intro that we cursed ourselves with, but we'll never give it up. We'll never give it up. It's a hallmark of this classic show. How are you doing, Hannah?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm wearing a stripy shirt. For the folks at home, I thought we could do an outfit segment of the show.
That is, an outfit segment works really well on a podcast.
It does, yeah. Because they don't know otherwise.
It's true.
They have to listen for the slight ruffles of the shirt and be like, is that red? Is that white I hear?
Let's set the scene. We're in some sort of kind of igloo.
Yeah, they don't know where we are. We could be anywhere.
Yeah, and we are.
Yeah. We're in an igloo, penguin butler next to me, feeding me crunky.
Throwback for those people who listen weekly.
Yeah.
Those little Easter eggs.
Those beautifully executed little morsels. What do we call our listeners? Didn't you say you wanted to call them Townsendo Friendos? Townsendo Townsendo Friendos.
We were in a coffee shop the other day and I feel like someone gave you the most kind of bro compliment that I've ever experienced.
I don't remember this. I usually remember every compliment I'm given.
I think it went a bit like this. He was like, you've got really blue eyes, like really cool eyes. He was like, kind of like June.
Oh, yeah. He kind of caught himself, didn't he?
Yeah.
I was sat in like direct sunlight, so my eyes were looking a bit doony.
All right.
That's when they look the most blue, though.
Okay, fair.
You know, when you got that, it's like studio lighting. And this guy was like, this waiter, he was like, "Whoa, man, you got really blue eyes." And he kind of caught himself and he was like, like Dune.
Yeah, so what's the reference? Like, is it just really blue in June? I've not seen it.
In June, there is this substance called spice, right? That it's sort of like a drug, like a hallucinogenic thing. And you can only get it from this one planet called Arrakis, which is the desert planet that you see in the Dune posters and stuff.
Sure.
And it's also the thing that makes space travel possible. It's the most important thing in the universe.
But I take it.
Yeah, you sort of inhale it, right? It's like sand, it's like dust. But if you consume enough spice, it will turn your eyes blue. So like Zendaya in Dune has like these incredibly blue eyes. And the whole eye goes blue.
Wow, what? Whites and all?
Whites and all.
Interesting.
And in the movie, right, you would think that they gave all the actors contact lenses, like blue contacts. They may have possibly done that in the first film, but in the second one, they painstakingly went in second by second and painted the eyes with digital effects. And it looks flawless.
Well, it looks better than the one.
I think it looks better than in one, yeah. And I think it looks better than a contact lens would look, because that would look maybe a bit fake.
Is it one massive contact lens that turned their eyes blue then?
I guess so.
In one. Wow, that's so interesting. I mean, no part of me wants to see June.
Oh, it's really good.
There was that clip that went viral of that girl who was like, just tell a guy you're going to watch June on like your mobile. Because that like blows everyone's brain because they're like, you have to watch it in a massive screen. It's not the same.
You do. I'm sad I've not seen it in IMAX. It's such a good movie though. Listen, Al Gaib.
It doesn't appeal to me, but the compliment really made me laugh.
You only like watching the Barbie movies.
For example.
The Polly Pocket movies.
I saw something that said Oppenheimer didn't pass the Bechdel test,
Yeah, but do you know
Just saying.
Alison Bechdel came out and said she's tired of people using it because she came up with it as a joke.
Did she?
It was originally from a comic that this woman called Alison Bechdel came up with, and it was kind of to highlight, she was like, what's the most comically low bar a movie can hit? How about just two women having one conversation that isn't about a man? That's the Bechdel test. But now people just use that as like a hard and fast rule, and she's like, that's not really how, it was meant to be a joke. It's not really meant to be like, if you manage to do this in a movie, the movie's just good now.
Why was it meant to be a joke? What, sexism?
Just to highlight like that even that incredibly low bar most movies don't hit, because most movies don't pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is crazy.
And Oppenheimer didn't pass it. I've got a real vendetta against that film. I absolutely hate Oppenheimer.
This is new. Where's this come from?
This is not new.
You saw it with me and you said it was all right.
I hate Oppenheimer.
Why?
You're rewriting history.
You were going to try and tie that to Oppenheimer, but you couldn't remember enough about Oppenheimer to make the joke. I see how your brain works.
I was going to try and tie it to the Bechdel test of like, you don't hear women. There was this clip that went viral, right? We're all over the place at this, but there was this clip that went viral of this woman, and she was like, talking about going on dates, and she was like, dating in New York is so funny because I tell a guy a fact and he's like, no way, and then looks up on his phone and he'll be like, I can't believe that's true. And she's like, yes, I know. That's why I told you. And now anytime you do anything, I'm like, it's like that girl. And that is like that girl.
But sometimes you will do that to me, and I'm like, well, how come it doesn't work in reverse? Would you say that you're a feminist, Hannah?
Of course.
Well, if you're such a feminist, then how come your podcast, Talk of the Townsends, doesn't pass the Bechdel test? Ooh.
I think it does.
Why? What woman are you talking to on this podcast?
Well, I guess it doesn't work in this. I mean, it's also your podcast.
Yeah,
How
and
come
I'm greatly ashamed.
I've been caught out.
Beck, mate.
2 of the worst pieces of media that came out of this year, Oppenheimer and this podcast.
People are going to come for you over Oppenheimer. It won Best Picture. And everything that's ever won Best Picture, of course, is famously a great movie.
Come for me.
I liked Oppenheimer.
I didn't like it.
But to circle back, it is quite funny that guy was like, I can't just give another man a compliment without having to couch it in some kind of bro reference.
Do you think there's a moth has eaten this?
For the listeners at home, there's a tiny hole in Hannah's dress.
Do you think a moth's gone at that? Why must they love the pretty things, huh? Do you think?
No.
Does that mean we've got moths at home?
I don't know. All I've got at home is a collection of cashmere jumpers. To cycle back quite...
Cycle? Circle. Much like the June logo. Isn't it a circle?
It's the word June.
No, there's the circle in June. The sun.
I guess.
You should really watch that movie. On big film.
There's that
on big screen.
On big screen. There's that circle in Oppenheimer. The explosion.
No, there's a famous circle in June. It's the sun.
Yeah, or a planet or something. I don't know. Look, the point is, it's funny that guy couldn't give me a compliment without couching it in some sort of doodly reference.
Mm-hmm. That is funny.
Well, you brought this up. Why are you fighting me? Is there a female equivalent of that?
No, I think girls just tell you, like, you're so pretty, your skin's so nice. Like, we don't need to relate it. I'm not like, your skin looks so nice, like in Legally Blonde. I'm like, you know?
Yeah. I loved Legally Blonde for the skin.
It was all about the skin for me in Legally Blonde. I guess on the topic of skin, I spilled something on my skin yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Stupidly, there was this bottle of oil and vinegar.
Oh, my God. This was like the most cartoonish thing I've ever seen in my life.
And
Wasn't it salad dressing?
Yeah, but it was like oil and vinegar salad
Sure.
dressing. That's what it is. And I wanted to shake it so the balsamic was mixed with the oil, if that makes sense. And I was like, shook it, and obviously the lid wasn't on. It went all over me.
Sight unseen, you shook it. You picked it up without testing anything. And you said, let's give it the hardest shake I can muster. And of course, the lid flew off. The oil went everywhere.
And oil is famously hard to get out of anything. Like, if you get oil on suede, it's over. You're dunsies.
Oh, the amount of suede I've lost over the years to oil.
But it went all over me, this blooming oil. And then you were talking to the cat about 10 minutes later, and you were like, Mummy got oil all over herself, much like a whale in an oil spill.
Yeah, I was calling you a whale, but I meant in the sense that there'd been an oil spill. And I didn't realize in that moment you perhaps would not enjoy being called a whale.
Yeah.
I went, or a seal.
So I was like, not only am I covered in oil, my clothes are ruined. And like, it just really upset me that like I'd done that. I'm now being called a whale.
Or the whale from that movie.
That's a good movie.
So you like the whale, but you don't like Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it's called Taste.
Okay. It's called something. I've got a story for you. So I want to shout out to someone on TikTok called Alexandra Cardinal. Cool name,
Yeah.
right? She did a video a little while back. I've been holding this in my back pocket. She did a video about how her name is Alexandra. She meets people. She says, hello, my name is Alexandra. And they go, hi, Alex. Or people say to her, do you prefer Alexandra or Alex? And she goes, Alexandra. And they go, sure thing, Alex.
Yeah.
And this has really chimed with me, a person who has always gone by Benedict,
Yeah.
who has always requested people call me Benedict, and who is continually called Ben. Now, look, to be clear, I really, truly, actually don't care if people call me Ben. I refer to myself as Ben constantly. But it is quite funny how much people will fully ignore you when you say stuff like that.
Yeah, and I see it happen as a bystander so often. And people will, you know, I don't want to call my family out, but they'll go, I'm going to make an effort to try.
Who could this be? Who could this be?
I'm really going to make an effort to try and call him Benedict because I know he prefers that. And then he just, Ben, you know, I don't understand because I'm like, I know you prefer Benedict. And I also think Benedict is like maybe nicer to say. It rolls off the tongue a bit, you know, smoother than the old Ben. But People just, and you met another Benedict the other day, and he said the exact same thing happens.
Yeah, but he goes by Ben, which was very shameful. He's like probably the second Benedict I've ever met in my life. And I was so excited to meet another Benedict. And he was like, I go by Ben. And I said, for shame. I think I've ever met another Benedict who goes by Benedict. I think the only reason why I like going by my full name is, one, I kind of like my name. It's different. Two, I was always called that as a kid. But three, otherwise, people are going to call me Benjamin. And I've spent my whole goddamn life being called Benjamin. And not to, God forbid, I quote the Ting Tings. But that's not my name.
Speaking of names,
Yeah.
after that.
You're a bit of a segue addict today.
No,
Speaking of this, speaking of that.
well, it's on that subject, and it just clicked with me, a much more interesting story than your name.
Sorry, yeah, so no more discussion on the name thing? I saved that for weeks. Alexandra Cardinal.
This is the same thing, but different and slightly more interesting because I'm saying it. So there was, do you see that girl who went viral on TikTok with those like slightly peculiar names, Francesca?
Oh, yeah, she was an influencer who was like...
Here's some baby names.
Baby names she really loved.
There was a really funny comment, I won't lie, and it was like, she was like, oh, I don't know whether to say this one, like, should we reveal it? And it was like, okay, the name that we've been thinking about is Escalator or something like that. Like, it was like a wildly like,
Yeah.
And everyone was like, girl, you didn't need to gatekeep Escalator from
Yeah.
us. Like, it's good, we're not using it. I will say that was very funny. I didn't hate on all the names. I think Heart was one. I think that's a kind of cool name.
Yeah, the names are getting really out there. Like, again, nothing against the name, but it is funny how we're moving. We've gone from sort of names to like kind of rarer old school names to sort of like, especially in America, creative spellings of existing names like Ashley with like loads of G's or whatever.
Oh, really?
Well, you know, in America, they love like Ashley, but it's like Leighghey.
Yeah.
But now the new thing seems to be just taking any word from the dictionary. Be like, this is my son, thank you.
Yeah.
Which they did in the old days, like calling a kid Hope or Faith.
Yeah. So now we're just doing one step more, I guess.
Yeah, now they're called Stapler.
Hope, Faith, and Stapler. Here are my three kids. We love them equally.
The three things that I base my life on. Hope, Faith, Stapler.
We've already got our baby name locked in, James Bond Jr.
James Bond Jr.,
I do
yes.
sometimes worry.
For a girl.
I do sometimes worry that, like, no matter what, we will kind of just default back to the baby being called James Bond Jr. because it's like how we've referred to it forever. Do you know what I mean?
Before we even discussed if maybe we would even potentially want to have kids, I was like, obviously our child would be called James Bond Jr.
I know, and now I just worry it's
For a girl.
I would just worry it's a bit of a joke that will like stick. But I tell you something that we're not going to be sticking with.
What's that?
We're not going to be one of those couples that gets a dog in the interim of like, you decide you're kind of going to be together, I guess, long term. You possibly get married, although not for everyone, I understand. And then you get a dog because you're like, well, a baby's a massive step, so let's do a little step. But what I keep seeing is I'm in the park, I'm on my little jog, and I see a very tired-looking person with both a dog, a very young dog, and it's usually one of those little yappy saucissons, which I do actually really like, and then a baby. And it's like he's throwing this ball.
For the baby.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's a lot of responsibility quite quickly, isn't it?
Because I don't know why this is such a widespread idea that like a dog is like just like an easy thing to take on. First of all, dogs live for like a decade minimum.
Yeah.
Dogs also are basically like toddlers, but they never grow up or learn anything, so they're toddlers forever.
Hey.
They require...
Snoopy would disagree.
Well, Snoopy can fly a plane, but he's very special. Dogs require constant attention, walking, love, and if you don't give them that, it's kind of cruel.
Yeah.
So the idea that you would just get a dog in the interim before you have kids, but then you have the kid like a year later anyway, and then you're stuck with both. And then at that point, you're like, kind of wish we didn't have the dog.
Surely. I mean, obviously, once it's a member of the family, I'm not saying like you regret getting it because it's like we love Miffy more than anyone. But
Miffy.
I see a lot of tired-looking people with both dog and baby, and I think surely we could have spaced it out a bit. I don't know.
Yeah, baby first. Wait a few years. Get the dog so the dog and the baby can be friends.
And I was having a really interesting discussion at work with one of my friends, and she was basically talking about how like these days dogs just come everywhere. Like that back in the good old days, like dogs stayed at home, but now like no matter what, you're having a barbecue, the dog's got to come. I don't know. We've moved to the dog almost being a bit like a kid in the sense that like they really do come everywhere with you.
Yeah, look, people. I'm going to catch some heat about this because people are very defensive about dogs. To be clear, I love dogs.
You've got a dog, a family dog.
I've got a family dog. I like dogs. But dogs have become a little bit everywhere now in a way that is a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
Where there should be some spaces where there are not dogs.
Yeah.
I say this as someone who likes dogs, but like, I don't know your dog. If your dog, you know when you're walking on the street and like a dog runs up to you and starts like jumping on you and you're like, ugh, and the owner's like, no, they're friendly. And I'm like, one, I don't know that. Two, even if they are friendly, I don't necessarily want a dog jumping up on me all the time.
Yeah,
Control your dog.
exactly.
But also, like, I don't know, you go to restaurants, you go to these places, like, there's dogs everywhere.
Just dogs.
It's just dogs, wall-to-wall dogs.
It's interesting that, yeah, they've kind of moved to just being such a big part of families.
I appreciate, actually, that people are getting them out, that they're not just, like, you know, neglecting them or whatever. But there's got to be a middle ground.
I guess if we could take Suki everywhere, would we?
The little cat, no, she's too precious. She's a precious angel.
Those little paws, they wouldn't last a second.
Those little silky paws, they've never touched the hard ground of the real world. But to be fair, that's the point. When people come around to our house, if they're not comfortable with cats, we keep her away. We're not like, no, she's nice. Because it's a thing. Here's the thing. I realized the other day, we were queuing to go on a roller coaster.
Classic.
When we were in Japan. And it was a real intense roller coaster. And I was feeling a bit nervous. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, why am I nervous? Because I know I'm not going to like die, right? Realistically. It's quite safe. Is it any more dangerous than anything else in life? It's probably way less dangerous than just like being in a car, right? I'm not scared of this roller coaster because I think I'm going to die or anything. I'm just scared of because I know it's how it's going to feel, and I don't necessarily want to feel that. It's the same reason I'm scared of turbulence. Like, I'm not scared of turbulence because I actually think the plane is going to crash, because the plane is probably moving like an inch in the air. I'm just scared of it because it feels unpleasant, and I don't like feeling unpleasant things. And it's a bit like that when like a strange dog comes at me. Like, most of the time, I don't believe your dog is going to kill me, but it doesn't have to be a threat to life that makes something unpleasant. It's more that I have a strange dog suddenly coming at me and I don't enjoy that sensation.
I get that.
You know what I mean?
Live your life. You've got this theory, which I don't agree with, that chip shop vinegar is different to just the normal brown bottle. Is it Samson's?
Sarsons?
Sarsen? Vinegar that you kind of get in your supermarkets.
This is a very...
I think you said supermarchés.
Supermarché. All right. So, Miss Mademoiselle Internationale.
She's travelled.
She's been to Japan.
But you have this theory that is not the same vinegar, and I need someone to tell us that it is the same vinegar so I can just put it to bed. Because you're always going on about how it's different.
This is a very important theory, and I'm glad you brought this up. The vinegar that you get in chip shops, first of all, it's unmarked. It's not in a bottle. It's usually in one of those sort of industrial squeeze bottles.
That's just because it's in large quantities.
No, I guarantee that will be some much cheaper vinegar that they buy in bulk, that they just refill those things with. But often with certain foods, the cheaper one, don't get me wrong, I love Sarsens, I love a bit of vinegar, but that chip shop vinegar, the cheap stuff, it hits different. It's a bit less acidic, and it is different.
I disagree. I just think it's the Sarsens one just in big form.
In big form.
Do you think there's a reason that it's in that dark bottle? Do you think it would go weird if it was like, you know how like olive oil should be in a dark bottle?
The Sarsens bottle?
Yeah, isn't it?
It's not dark.
It's dark brown.
No, I'm pretty sure it's just glass.
It's dark brown.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you willing to bet £1 million?
I actually am.
Okay, we'll settle
It's
this before the
dark
next
brown.
episode.
It's dark brown with a red top.
Are you sure it's not just dark brown because of the vinegar inside?
No, don't be silly.
I feel like I've seen an empty one of those and it's clear, but maybe I'm loony.
It's literally like brown plastic. It's not even glass.
Oh my goodness, I feel like there's been an on-air revelation.
No, I'm talking about this.
Oh yeah, well that's the plastic bottle, obviously. I'm talking about the glass bottle where you can see the vinegar. Yeah, but that hold
I'm
the
talking
phone.
about this. That's definitely a brown bottle.
Well, yes, obviously.
Malt vinegar.
But then look, that's the one I'm talking about, which is clearly glass where you can see the vinegar.
It can be both.
It
It's
can
what
be
we've
both.
learned.
Everyone can win.
Everyone can win.
Can you remember the context in which I made maybe the best pun ever? I think we were talking about costumes for pets. I can't remember, but I said that it was petronormative.
So I wish I could remember what that was.
It was something to
What
do...
was the setup?
Something to do with like pets and I guess like sexuality or something. And I was like, that sounds petronormative. And it was one of those moments where I thought, gonna remember this one.
Not any of the surrounding context, but I'm just going to remember.
No need to remember any of the build-up. Just the punchline. Feel free to take that punchline and try and retrofit a joke into your life today. Dear listeners, dear viewers, one thing you will know about Hannah and I after listening to this show for all these many years we've been doing it. 19, 20, 25 years it's
when
been.
Townsends vinegar was created.
Sarson's vinegar. We are pretty nosy. Well, not nosy so much as things just happened around us that we can't help but take in.
Yeah.
Usually loud people. And there was a time once where we were sat on an outdoor table in a cafe, and there was the world's loudest and possibly most annoying woman next to us. And she was recounting her time in Miami to these two other people. It was a 3-person conversation where the other 2 people could not get a goddamn word in edgeways the entire time. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think the thing about us is that I think because we do things like this, people might assume that we're quite loud people.
Yeah.
And actually we are quite quiet people
Yeah.
in the sense that like in public settings, I mean, unless I've had a drink, but in a public setting or like a coffee shop or if we're having dinner, we are very quiet people.
Yeah. We try and
Funny, but quiet.
silent. A lot of silent comedy, a lot of falling over, a lot of slipping, a lot of mime, slipping on banana skins.
I live for a mime.
We love a mime. But this woman next to us, she was loudly recounting her time in Miami.
Very loud.
So loud that we couldn't help but hear it. And she did this really annoying thing where she went, the thing about Miami is I call it a shady place. No, I call it a shady place for sunny people. No, a shady, sunny. Basically, she was trying to say the phrase, a sunny place for shady people. And she was also trying to claim that she came up with that.
She didn't coin that term.
No.
We knew that. The other 2 probably knew that, but they were just like, they had non-speaking roles in this little play.
But that phrase is probably like 50 years old. It's probably from some famous book.
She kept getting it wrong, which was really annoying.
But also quite satisfying because she was like, I've come up with this phrase. The sunny shade, the shady sun.
It's shady, sunny. And then she got there in the end and we were like,
well done.
Yeah, like good for her.
And now still, whenever it's sunny, Hannah and I will be like, a shady, sunny shade.
I wish we'd interjected and we could have been like, what I would call it is.
I would have interjected with the Wikipedia page for like whatever author came up with that. Actually, I'd interject with the note that just says, "Hi, I'm Benedict," that I was going to show those young boys in Japan last week. And if you don't get that reference, you should be listening to every episode. Sorry, got a bit mad there for a sec.
If you'd have let me interject, I would have. If you'd have let me interject on the tube the other day with that guy,
oh my God,
I would have absolutely loved it. But you said no, I wasn't allowed to get involved, which I do understand for my safety. But I so wish I'd been allowed to.
Can I? Oh my God! So we were on the tube.
Yeah.
There was these like 4 or 5 lads. I say lads, they were probably like 30.
Yeah.
They were like the most annoying men in the world, like just the most stereotypical, like unbelievably loud.
Football chat. Vaping, drinking.
Vaping on the train.
Shouting, chanting.
Like screaming at each other. And they were like a foot from each other. Probably really drunk. And perhaps on some other substances. Because Hannah tapped me. She'd taken a photo. This guy, it was Hannah, an empty seat, or 2 empty seats, then him. Directly next to him, like next to his pocket, where it had clearly fallen out, a little bag.
White powder.
Of white powder. Quite a plump bag of white powder.
Anyway, he had a little bag of talcum powder next to him that had clearly fallen out. And he was very much man spreading. So his legs were as far apart as they could be. And which meant that his friends couldn't see this bag of drugs next to him that had fallen out.
The irony of his own man spread.
Yeah.
Shielding the view. And then there was that girl sat opposite you.
Who was just, me and her were just laughing because we could just both see it. And I so wanted, as we were getting off the tube, to be like, oh, I think you dropped something. But Benedict said no.
I 90% wanted to let you do that because it would have been so funny. But like, as your husband, I have to have like
But I would have played
a concern.
it dumb.
I know, but a slight concern for your safety where I'm like, anything that might happen that might endanger Hannah, I don't want it to. To be clear, I wasn't like, I forbid you in terms of like, I control you. I like to look out for Hannah's safety because you're a lot more ballsy than I am. You're always trying to get your little nose in situations.
So I was like, shall I do it? And you said no. You were like, no, I wouldn't. And then so I was like, okay, I won't because I understand. You're more of the head of reason.
Well, but also, 9 times out of 10, if you piss people off, they're not going to fight you. You know what I mean? They're not going to come swinging for you. It was so... I cannot even describe to you how blatant this bag was.
Yeah, maybe we'll put...
I love the idea of being like, not to be an absolute nerd, but it would be quite funny to be a police officer
Oh,
and get
I
on
love
the
it.
tube and then just see that and then just think to yourself, what is the funniest way I can bring this up to this guy?
Because also then maybe he'd be like, oh no, it's not mine, mate. And then you'd be like, well, you've lost your drugs for the day.
We were actually on that tube because we were visiting Abbey Road, the famous crossing that the Beatles famously walked over for the cover of their album, Abbey Road. Very good impression, Hannah.
Thank you.
This is for a video project that will be coming out soon on my TikTok that I'm quite excited about. I can't say much about it, but it's very exciting. Had you ever been to Abbey Road before? I don't think you have.
I think I have. I think I've been once.
But judging by your reaction, it seemed like you'd never been there before.
Well, I guess I went like probably 10 years ago and I was like, surely all these people have been by, you know.
Yeah, Hannah and I were both shocked to find just how busy that Abbey Road crossing is. Because you think, oh, it's just a crossing in London. You pop by, get your photo, move on. Crowds of people.
That takes the biscuit, doesn't it? Like, it really does. It is, you're stopping traffic to have this photo. There's also a maze of other crossings that are all identical. Like, I don't know. I just think, who cares?
You were so wonderfully cynical about this.
I just thought that's really, really irritating. Like, if you're a cabbie having to pop down there all the time, and there's just
she's
all,
pro-driver, folks.
all the people. And I also forgot how it worked that, like, because I thought, well, we're just crossing it because everyone else was queuing. And I thought, well, we're just crossing it so we can just go. But I forgot people are obviously taking pictures, and then I was like walking into their picture. And
Hannah was trying to walk through a family's photo. I had to physically stop her.
I genuinely forgot because I was like, all these people are queuing for a photo. We're not having a photo. Let's just walk across. But then I was in this like lovely. It was a very sweet family, but I just thought that is really annoying.
But to be fair, annoying in the sense that I don't think I've ever seen drivers more annoyed than the people who every 5 seconds, anyone trying to get across that crossing in a car.
But imagine if you lived around there. Like when we were there for 10, 15 minutes in that area, the amount of horns that we heard of just like, and also like if someone's standing in a crossing having a picture and you just want to drive, you're going to just,
Hank.
you're going to full hand on the wheel, blast it. So it's not just a dun, let's get off now. It's full.
It's not a, it's a Hank.
It keeps going.
I'll be honest, Hannah. I think I would probably still live there, judging by how nice that neighbourhood was. I'd
nice.
accept the honks if I could live near Abbey Road.
I think it drove me a bit nuts as well. The irregularity.
Irregularity.
I think it would drive me a bit nuts as well. The irregularity of the horns.
If you live around there, you can afford double glazing. You're all right.
No sympathy for the.
I think human beings are very cute, and I think it's very sweet that people go to that crossing and do the exact same pose. But I do it. I will say, in any other country, it's a testament to how many like landmarks and tourist things London has. Because in any other city, they would have like built a museum around that crossing, or they would have like lifted that bit of pavement out of there and moved it somewhere else.
Yeah.
The fact that they've just left that, and there's nary a plaque or anything there, is there? It's just a crossing.
Maybe they don't want to draw more attention to it.
But you think they would have moved it or something to stop people messing up that road? But
even if they moved it, they'd have to repaint it, and then people would still be doing it.
Yeah, it's like how they built that car park over Hitler's death spot.
Did they?
Yeah, so people couldn't like go and visit it. It's not really like that, but
That tracks.
yeah. I would like to bring us to two very popular segments of the show. Okay, the first is Hannah's sayings. These are just, as we know, Hannah, she has dyslexia. And one of the side effects of the dyslexia is that Hannah will mix up phrases, but in ways that still make sense, usually.
Thank you.
And I've been recording some of these. The first one you said recently is the paintings on the wall instead of the writings on the wall.
The writings on the wall. Painting the town red. Sorry, I feel like there's a couple of things I've mixed up there.
Is that where that's come from? That you've mixed painting the town red with the writing? No, because you said it like the writings on the wall. You went, well, the paintings on the wall. And I like that because the saying, of course, is that a picture
tells 1,000 words.
Is worth 1,000 words. So a painting on the wall, that's a lot of writing on the wall.
That is. Why did I say it? In what context? Or have you not?
Just that something was like a done deal. You were like, well, the painting's on the wall. Another one was you went to say the most viable option.
Oh, yes.
And you said the most liable option. Liable,
Yeah.
the thing that's going to get you sued the most.
Does that still work? It kind of does, though.
The most liable option. I mean, it would work in a very different context, but I like the idea of it's the most liable option.
It's the most liable option.
It's time for arguably the best segment of this show.
Oh, no.
Hannah's flow update.
Dun, da, da.
Flow is a period tracking app. You know this, of course, because you've listened to every episode of the show. And if you haven't, I encourage you to go back so you can hear other Flow updates. But
All
Flow,
6 episodes.
exactly. Flow is a period tracking app where your partner, aka me, can also track along with the person who's having the periods. And it will give you updates about how they're feeling, according to the app. And these updates are usually very creative, shall we say. This was one that we got the other day. It said, today's potential positive, because sometimes there's negatives, I should be feeling tired today. But sometimes, apparently, your period can give you powers, superpowers.
You try having a period and come back about the positives.
Okay. Touche. Today's potential positive. Speedy scanning. She may be better at analysing symbols or patterns right now. And then it often gives you things you can do with that information, right?
Hey.
Flo says, what can you do? Solve a puzzle. Today's the day to crush an escape room or start a jigsaw together.
Me seeing the notification and running out to do an escape room.
I love the idea of like, hey, Hannah, I know your period's really bad today. Do you want to go do an escape room together?
It's the next logical step, isn't it?
What was that song of the summer I came up with? It was the Mark Ronson song.
Oh, yeah. Rebecca, show me.
It was like, oh, no, you da, 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 da. Show it to me, Rachel. Show it to me, Rachel, please.
Very good. Someone put a beat behind that. I'm obsessed with that girl who's like, trust fund, 6'5".
6'5", blue eyes, finance. A lot of people have been saying, is that about you, as in me? Because obviously, 6'5",
Trust fund.
blue eyes,
Trust fund.
finance. And again, I don't actually work in finance. It's more crypto. So no, it's not about me.
Trust fund.
Everything else is accurate, though.
6'5", blue eyes, finance. Something I like to do in my spare time. I watch a lot of TV. I'm kind of always caught up, always up to date. You can always rely on me to have seen the telly.
I like the implication that, like, I'm not also doing this with you. We're both caught up.
Solo TVing, if you will. But I like to come up with TV shows and just like what I think would work, because I genuinely think it's like a skill and like almost like a power that I've got because I've seen so much of it and I kind of understand formulas that work. Speaking of formulas, I will say a bit of a segue that don't work. The Apprentice final, which we watched recently, which if you haven't watched it, there's going to be a spoiler here. The two people that got through to the final, one was a guy who had won only one task throughout 12 episodes, and the other was a lady.
I think he broke the record for having the most losses.
And I don't know who those TV producers are, but as soon as those two were the only two in the final, it's like, well, we know who has to win because, and spoiler, she won. Because if he won, the show didn't make sense.
Yeah, you've completely undermined the whole show.
What's the point of the show? Then let's just do a final round where everyone brings in a business plan and then we just decide who has the best business plan. I was like, this is, as someone who watches a lot of TV, I was like, this is terrible TV. She has to win. And if she doesn't, then the whole show is null and void. Because why have we watched 12 weeks of it? I just thought that was the weirdest.
And it removes all tension or possible drama from the last episode of The Apprentice, which is usually the most boring episode anyway.
Well, interviews are also kind of boring.
Oh, some people love the interviews because they're so sassy.
I think it depends. You get good years and bad years. That guy who like nearly walked out and he was like, that's not the door. That was good. The guy who had the sailboats.
It's such a weird show because you spend all those weeks being like, I need you to make me a vegan cheese, doing all these weird activities. And at the end, they're like, well, anyway, I'll just look at your business plans now. It's like, what was the point of any of that?
Yeah.
I'm not the first to say this.
But I don't know.
You're right, though. That was really bad producing.
I guess so, yeah. I guess it was TV producing and it was pretty... We knew who was going to win.
Alan Sugar must have really loved that guy.
We should have put money on it.
Yeah.
If we were betting people...
The odds were probably terrible, though.
Do you think? Because it was obvious.
So obvious, yeah.
You just don't get that these days. They usually keep you guessing until the end.
Yeah, they usually want a bit of drama, but what's your ideas? What's your good ideas?
So...
If that's bad TV, what's Hannah's good TV?
Well...
And our expectations right now? Sky high.
So I've come up with this TV show, and it's a reality TV show because I do love reality TV, and it's all about finding love. And two things that I think people are very interested in, right, are pets and also like relationships. And this TV show, it combines the two. So the working title is Puppy Love. There's a room, right? And you go into a room and you meet someone's pet.
Yeah.
So I guess the catch is that everyone who goes on the show has to have a pet. And you then watch the interaction of this person meeting your pet, right? And from that, you decide if you want to date them.
Yeah.
So someone would, say you've got a pet bunny. Someone goes into a room, meets the bunny. Do we like how they interact with them? Do we like, do they look tall?
Are you sure you want to burn this great idea by putting it out into public on the podcast? I suppose now no one can steal it.
Do they look tall compared to the bunny? You're like, I don't know, if you want a 6'5", finance. If you want a 6'5" guy, does it, I know the bunny's this big. Is he 6'5"?
How tall are you in bunnies?
And the whole idea is that...
Because also you might be a lizard guy or a tarantula guy. And so, if your potential partner comes in and doesn't like a lizard or tarantula, that is a good way to filter.
100%. So it's a good way of vetting.
Oh.
I'm really tough with that. It's a good way of vetting someone out to see, do I like them? And also, if you live with your pet, could this person live with my pet? Yay or nay? I don't know how it works. Like, I'm still working on the logistics of like, do you just watch someone meet your pet, or do you also meet their pet if they've got a pet? Like, is it like a switch, and then we both hold up a card that says yes or no?
Here's the thing, right? You may think that couldn't be a show.
It could.
Take 3 seconds to think of any of the shows that are currently on TV.
Yeah.
And you realize, yes, it could be a show. 100%. We love Dinner Date, a show that makes no sense, where you choose love based on someone's cooking, and it never works.
It never works because the people don't have anything in common.
Yeah.
And just one of them's just got a jacuzzi, and it's just like, do you know what I mean? Like, they've always got something that they're like, it'd be good if you were in the jacuzzi. And it's like, why? It's like, Tuesday, 8 p.m. in winter, and they're like just sitting in a jacuzzi with a sad cocktail.
Well, I think that's a great idea. Hannah, I'm a big TV exec, and I'd like to buy your show.
If a TV exec wants to get in touch, I've got hundreds, if not thousands of these ideas. I come up with them every day. I'm always inventing.
You turned to me the other day, and it was your eyes had rolled in the back of your head in a moment of inspiration, and you looked at me. You grabbed me by the collar like this, and you pulled me forward, and you went, Pokemon 2. And I was like, oh my God, could it be done? And you went, yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby.
That's why we went to Japan.
Yeah.
To try and do talks.
To catch them all, if you will.
Yeah. Very good.
Look at that pop culture reference.
We were trying to get a meeting with Pikachu. But
seriously, yeah, I've got many ideas. The one catch is I'd need to be in every single show, a bit like old Trump with his this
is also a star vehicle for you, is it?
Yeah. I mean, I want to make it to the top. So if I'm in
the top of what exactly? The food chain?
So I would need to be dating in the shows. But
hold on.
I would need to meet lots of animals.
So sorry, you're not just on the show. You're not hosting the show. You're dating in the show.
Yes.
So is Suki, our
You're
cat,
right.
also...
Hosting would make much more sense.
Yes. Is Suki, our cat, also just going to be in it every week, meeting all these strangers? She would hate that. Well, on that explosive bombshell and a peek into the future, it brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening. There's Talk of the Townsends. You can find it on all good podcast platforms. You can find it on TikTok, YouTube. Do put the whole episodes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Spend all that time editing them. They're all there. You can see us in person and whatnot. Make sure to follow if you haven't already. Become part of what did you call them? The Townsendo Friendos? I don't love that personally, but Hannah's always calling them the Townsendo Friendos. Till next time, Hannah, could you say to all the Townsendo Friendos, as you would call them, please say our famous catchphrase.
I've been playing Hannah Townsend.
And I
thought it...
Petronormative.